stories, with some favorite recent work including campaigns for Lift the Label, 988 Mental Health, and Man Therapy. All right, welcome, thank you. And then on the far end there, we have Andrew Yang, a DP and an assistant cinematographer. Began freelancing in photography around 2017, expanding work into first AC and DP roles on film, commercials, and television sets in Colorado and around the world. Sounds so fun. Andrew loves playing with light, color, and composition to tell stories that resonate, mixing naturalistic lighting, cinematic framing, and then some added eccentricity towards unique angles that propel stories forward. Andrew says it's not just about the visuals, it's about creating something that feels genuine and memorable. We also do journalism, so there's broadcast students in the ground. Are any PR students here? Journalism? Photo J? Okay, and then video production? Media production and leadership? Okay, so we have kind of a diversity of programs just to give you a sense of who's in the audience. But again, I just want to thank Lorian for organizing this. It's been a year since she graduated in May, and she's already off to great things, and it's nice that she could give back and organize this panel to bring it to the students who are always like, how do we do this? So that's really the feature of today's, am I the one?
Yeah.
You
broke.
Okay, thanks, Alfredo. I just wanted to see you again. Alfredo, Sanchez, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Behind the scenes. So a Colorado film study that I put a copy of over there in 2022 noted growth in the film industry, that there's larger tax incentives and over 15,000 people working in film across the state, with over 7,000 in Denver alone. Right? So that is an industry that we can go into. We are bringing hundreds of millions of dollars to the state through our film office tax incentives, and they are currently fighting to keep those going and funded. So if you want to get involved in that, maybe Lorian has some information about how to support some legislation that's proposed. But would you mind talking a little bit, maybe each of you, about where you did your undergrad, what did you study, and what roles are you kind of responsible for? So kind of extending that introduction into like, what does it mean to be a grip gaffer, producer, director, DP, and how did you start out from school?
I went to school for photojournalism at UT Austin. I actually quit after a year. I dropped out and I left with a backpack. And I traveled for most of my 20s. I got into film in my early 30s. I was running a pedicab company nationally at the time and working like very large events, right? Like hundreds of thousands of people, and all of those evaporated. And I was like, I need to pivot. I need like to diversify what I'm doing for work. And I kind of decided that I wanted to go back to something creative. And I kind of came up with these metrics for myself. I did a lot of thinking during COVID because I was very unemployed. And I was like, okay, what do I want out of my work? And I was like, okay, I think I want to do something creative. I want to do something meaningful. I want to do something that feels like impactful. I want to always be learning. I don't want to be bored at my work. I want to be at a growth edge constantly. And I want autonomy over my time. And I was like, I think it's film, I'm not really sure. And the only way for me to find out is by doing it. So I didn't know anybody in the industry, I just started PAing. And it just kind of snowballed, I think. So I started as a PA, and then I worked with my good friend Polly Meehan on it was an Asian American majority spaghetti Western short narrative that was shooting in Silverton, and the the producer for this film was actually my landlady at the time. And I was like, June, please let me do something. She's really awesome. Like her whole family gets involved in these passion projects. And I was like, this is what I want to be doing. Like this is like a project that like prioritizes people of color. It feels really fun. Like I've never been on a set like this. And she brought me on to shoot BTS. And my friend Polly was gaffing. And after that short narrative, he came up to me and he was like, I see your work ethic. You're relentless. Like, I'm going to teach you how to grip. And I was like, I don't know what a grip does. But yeah, sure. Like, I'm down. And he roped me into Genie like pretty early on. And I think I excelled at that because I have such a strong mechanical like problem solving background, and I just kind of translated that into like what grip was, and that kind of gave me an edge, I think. My roles on set are, I'd say I'm primarily on grip side. I tend to key like medium-sized sets. I still work on the crew side, like as a best or a swing for much larger builds. But I want to key larger builds for sure. I feel ready for that, and I've been stepping into gaffing quite a bit. I also DP like smaller doc style stuff, a lot of run and gun stuff where people are wearing multiple hats. I get called often as a Swiss Army knife, which I think is an apt description.
Very good. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
All right, Taylor, how about you?
Yeah, so I didn't go the traditional schooling route for film per se. I knew I wanted to direct, and so I actually moved to New York City. And similar thing, I mean, you kind of start PAing and you just want to get on set, and you don't really know exactly like what you're going to be good at or what you like. And I knew as a director you would have to kind of do everything, and so I mean, I PA'd in like every department. I assisted in camera. I worked in the art department for years on indie films in New York, all the while kind of like shooting my own little music videos and things like that. And this was many years ago. It was a little different for women in the industry back then. Like, I mean, even now to make your first feature as a woman it's a challenge. And so I kind of started seeing that the ladder, you know, no one's going to meet you as a PA and be like, you should direct a feature film, you know? So I started writing, and I did a few shorts, you know, as proof of concepts, and then wrote my feature, which ultimately was set in Colorado. And then the pandemic happened and things kind of opened up here. We worked with the Film Incentive, which was a big motivator actually to shoot in Colorado, because that helped with our budget quite a bit. Through that process, I started my own company, because with indie films, you know, there's just a lot of different ways they can get made, but you kind of have to ultimately wear a lot of hats. I wrote, directed, and produced it. And through that, realized that I was really passionate about helping other people figure out how to tell their stories, because it took me so many years. There's kind of this, nobody wants to tell you like how they got their film funded or how it worked out. And you know, I would get a few people that would get on the phone with me and be like, here's how you set up your company, here's how you get investors, all these things. And so now with my company, you know, we take on a select amount of projects. We have like 2 narrative features and a doc feature right now that we're developing. And it's people whose voices I really believe in, and I want to help them kind of, there's just a lot of, how do you set up your LLC? How do you, you know, all these like little things that I don't even know if you get to learn all of like the business side of it too. You know, there's, I try to tell my family because they don't understand what I do. I'm like, the art side is like so small. Like my feature just got out on streaming platforms. The business side of it is such a massive learning curve. Also, the industry is changing constantly. So, you know, the distribution deals that were available in 2015 don't exist anymore. And so you kind of always have to be like learning and on the edge of stuff. And so my passion is directing and writing. I have 2 projects that are in development right now. But then through my company, we're also trying to create opportunities for other people, women, other stories that wouldn't get told normally. And just try to empower people. I think, you know, one of our mission statements in the company is there's enough room and resources for all of us. And I think that there's this idea, or there was for a long time, that there's only enough, you know, you get like 1 woman directed for an Oscar every year. And it's like, okay, well, maybe when we have like 3 or 4, then we can start talking, you know what I mean?
First DP win.
Yeah,
you
which
know?
was amazing,
Yes,
which is amazing. And it's amazing to see like, you know, other people like in crew positions as well, because often those are primarily male as well. So, yeah, just trying to help with that barrier of entry, because a lot of those little things like how to set up your company, how to go from how to even make a short, how to go from a short to a feature. It's all just like a really big mystery, you know, and trial and error. And I think it's really important to have a community aspect around that and to like share your information, because we just need more stories. I think that's like really the most important thing. And, you know, with these big corporations coming in and like only wanting to make certain things, like it's a really important time for independent filmmakers to, you know, have their unique voices. So I kind of do a lot of everything every
Yeah,
day.
it sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
We should make documentaries about Taylor and just follow, and Cheshire. Like, so you two have, you know, let's hear how you got into it,
I don't know if I
Sam,
can
and
compete.
what did you study as an undergrad, and kind of what's your role and how'd you get there?
So I went to Chapman University out in California, and I studied creative writing and film history. My idea was really that I was going to be a writer, but after graduating, I came back home, and I realized that I kind of didn't know what writing, how that translated to being on screen or anything like that. So that was kind of lacking in my education. And so I cold called around to about 20, I think 30 different places here in Denver at that time, and was like, I'll do whatever I have to be on set. Got one answer back, and it was for a low independent feature film. Said, you know, we always need extra hands. And so that was the start, was essentially, and those were the same group of people that I still work with today, kind of 15 years later. Anytime they call me, I'm like, what do you need? Kind of deal. But that really opened up a lot of doors for me here in the Denver area, because the director and the producer and you know, all the departments, I got to really play in all of them. And so I started as a PA and kind of was everywhere in every department. And after a while, I really realized that I kind of wanted to be in the production department and wanted to be part of the office and then actually produce, because I saw that that was really kind of sometimes the glue that holds everything together, and that like kind of communicates with the key grips and the creatives, as well as, you know, clients and EPs and such like that, to make sure that the whole vision comes together and that everybody's being heard in the process, and that like a bad producer really affects the whole job kind of thing. And but this, at the same time, a good producer affects also has an impact. And yeah, I think that's just kind of where I led. So,
Great,
yeah.
thanks for sharing. You're in the documentary as well. We've cast you, you've made
Okay,
it.
perfect.
That's my pre-interviews. All right, and Andrew, please tell us where you went to school and how you kind of became into your ACDP world.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I had a pretty traditional pipeline/timeline that a lot of you guys may have. So I went to school I didn't know that film was even a job, like that, you know, people like were making money. I just assumed they were all homeless and like that, you know, there's no money, there's no nothing. Like, it's just like you go there to starve and make cool stuff. And
Yeah, starving artist.
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, I didn't know it was like a viable thing until like I got to school and met like other freelancers, and those are freelancers who I was put in touch with through professors at the university I was at, which was at CU Boulder. So I started off in their media studies program, and it was just like really fascinating, you know, just like seeing all the moving video stuff, seeing that what other people were doing, seeing this legacy of like things and putting a name to stuff that like I didn't even know had a name to it, or even just like a career to it. So it was just really like mind-boggling and eye-opening. And as soon as I realized that, I kind of wanted to like pursue it full time. So I left school after my third year to kind of pursue freelancing full time. And how I got my start was similar to a lot of you guys, just PAing and doing set photography or doing whatever was needed of me when I was like working on these projects. And doing a little bit of that, I ended up also working at a rental house to kind of learn the equipment and learn sort of what was coming in, what was coming out, who was working. So it's another great kind of avenue if you're just getting started, is to try to find your local rental houses and try to get, you know, in touch with them. And it's a great way just to meet people who are coming in and out and see who's working and see what gear is coming out. And that was a great experience. So I was doing the freelancing thing part-time. I was doing set photography. I was working the rental house. I was also delivering food because I was very poor at the time. So it was a lot of different things. And I also ended up doing my own kind of like one-man band sort of things, where I'm sure you've all kind of done a little bit of that, just like tackling direction, camera, audio, the whole nine. So very similar to you guys, you know, you're used to kind of doing it all and doing it all, and then working when you're on like a crew project where it works like a machine. You get to see where all these pieces are coming in. You kind of get to, like, similar to Sam, figure out what place in this kind of like machine am I gravitating towards, similar to Chesh, knowing that, you know, they're mechanical, like what do you draw towards? And I've always been like a nerd, so the camera department kind of like made sense for me, just to like find all, you know, figure out all the stops, all the settings, all the different things that you could do with a camera that changes the image. And working, you know, as an AC for a while, you get to see, like, you get to work and see really talented people do what they do. Especially when you're just getting started as a PA or a grip or a first AC, you get to work with DPs who have been doing it for a very long time and are very talented. So it's a good place to be in a crew position where you get to work with people who are ostensibly not just better, but just have been doing it for longer. And it's a great place to be, to work on crew, and then to go back to your own kind of projects that are smaller and try and see if what you've absorbed can kind of translate into putting it onto your own projects. So it was a fun kind of start of going from crew side to doing my own thing to delivering pizzas to, you know, whatever it was to just kind of survive. And eventually kind of made sense to start doing more and more of my own projects, bringing on the crew members that I was meeting on these like really, really cool big projects and asking them if they'd be willing to just like try to make something, which is a good place for you guys all to be, which is like in school, meeting fellow creatives, meeting fellow people, because you'll never know like where you'll end up, and you know, having like this kind of alumni body of people to kind of call upon when you have something creative and you want to just do something and there's no stakes, it's a really cool place to be. So yeah.
Very good. Thank you all for sharing. It's so awesome to hear the journeys are all different, but yet we're going to the same place, right? The film production set. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe we'll start with you, Sam. Were there any challenges that you faced when you were first starting out? So we're really kind of going back in time to like the younger grasshopper versions of yourselves and trying to get those first PA jobs even? Like, are there, you know, a lot of us are struggling, like, where do I start? What kind of challenges did you face in trying to get there?
I think especially as you starting out as a PA, for me, it was like getting my name out there and like getting my name out that people like could recommend me and like trust me. And so as a result, like there would be, I remember like a couple of months would go by before I would hear back on a job or anything like that. And so that was always really frustrating. The thing that I did and like I would always recommend is to again, like keep cold calling and to also like keep following up with people and like keep that connection alive kind of thing. Like if you've worked with a PM or another PA or anything like that, like those are your biggest allies in the process of like, because they're going to be the ones that recommend you and like get you onto other work for sure.
What does that look like in this like 2026 landscape where we're like texting, IMing, DMing, Teamsing, emailing? Do you literally mean calling on the phone, or what do you mean by cold calling?
So I would probably, like if I was like trying to reach out to a production company, I would cold email, like either like the head of production or like head of development or something like that, or whoever was kind of on the roster or email wise, like for those kind of positions. I know with Futuristic, like we do try, like as soon as we get those emails, like they usually get forwarded to me or to my boss, Christian, and we do try to set up coffees and such like that and try to get people on projects. But in terms of like people that you've already met or like connections, like I would, you know, if you feel comfortable with it, I would text them just kind of on the side saying, hey, hope you're doing well. You know, I'm always looking for work if you've, you know, if you've got something, that kind of thing.
Okay, great. Thank you for elaborating.
Sure.
How about you, Taylor? Any challenges? Like it sounds like you went in through a unique path, but was there anything when you were trying to get those first PA jobs in New York City or?
I mean, filmmaking is challenging. I'm not going to lie to you, and it never stops. So just brace yourself for that. You have to just like sort of accept that, like, and learn to enjoy it. Actually, like you start to learn to enjoy that. Like every day is a totally new mountain to climb, and you have to figure it out. And at the end of the day, it's a relationships business. It's really about like making connections with people and who you know. So, you know, I mean, my first feature I worked on for free. I was an intern in the art department, and I ended up like just hustling. And this lady really liked me, and so she would hire me again. And you never know, like it's a really small industry, not just in Colorado, but like the whole country, you know, like people know each other. And so if someone's had a good experience with you, you never know if like, oh, we have a day shoot in Colorado, like I'm looking for a gaffer or whatever, you know, like it really is a close-knit thing. So, you know, just always making sure that you're like putting your best foot forward and working hard. And there's a lot of ways to get your name out there. I mean, I think you can cold email. Sometimes that's hard. You know, that's amazing. I love Futuristic, and I know that they do. No, it's awesome that they are very supportive of creatives and stuff like that, but it can be challenging.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ways to meet people. Go to film festivals. Like, all of us who work in the industry are at these events, and you meet people, and you a face-to-face is always better. Also, like, weirdly, social media can be, I have gotten, like, music video jobs on social media, and it's like, if you're posting stuff that you're making, or posting things like, I DM people and I'm like, oh, I love this project that you did, and maybe it's 5 years later that you end up working with them, but you just never really know. There is, like, Instagram is almost like a portfolio for artists in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know if you do that with your work, but it's like, you kind of get to show who you are and what you're making, and so it's kind of a great way. You can connect with people that you just would never normally. I'm not a big LinkedIn person. I know some people do that. I've never had any success with it. But yeah, I think the challenges are always trying for people to take you seriously in what you do, especially when you don't have a lot of the experience yet. But you just have to like get your foot in the door and be humble and be willing to do, like, go get the coffees on set. Go, you know, like, being on set, you will learn so much. And like, I learned so much as a PA, being able to sit next to a director and watch them. I mean, I assisted so many incredible directors and got to just see what they did. And so filmmaking is so connected. Every single job is so unbelievably important. And so understanding what an actor is going through, what a gaffer is going through, what a DP is going through, it's all going to affect the way the film works. And so there really isn't too small of a job. And then whatever your passion ends up being, you end up like finding that, that's great. But yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, but maybe if there's any challenges you faced, it sounds like you just kind of, the relational part was what you were developing, and then getting that first job helped you get hired on.
I mean, it's most people freelance, and that's hard. You know, it's really hard. There's gaps. I have had many jobs. Like, the amount of jobs that I had to supplement my income while I was trying to become a filmmaker were a lot, and that's just kind of part of it sometimes, especially as you're building, and then eventually you kind of get your name out there. But that can take years, you know. So I guess when I say like no job's too small, be humble. Like, I would take, even when I was far beyond wanting to PA anymore, sometimes I would take those jobs just so that I could be on set and have an income and afford to live in New York City, you know, while I was also writing my script, you know. So, yeah, like, not being too proud to do something. I think a lot of times people want to just come in now and like, I'm going to direct my movie. It's like, okay, well, there's like it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. And yeah, it sometimes feels a little impossible because there are a lot of gatekeeping, you know, there's only so many jobs, you know, but they are out there. And I think figuring out a way to just offer your time and your resources and staying really curious is the best option. Yeah.
Did you have any challenges? It sounds like you fell in with the right landlady and roommate, was it? And then got taken under a wing. But did you have challenges in those early years when you were transitioning and kind of taking that leap into cinema?
Yeah, I think that filmmaking carries a lot of challenges. I think my perspective is primarily from below the line, right? And less above the line. And I think that's a really specific perspective. I think that, like, as a PA, I was just stoked. I was like enthusiastic to be on set. I was always just like learning. I think that, like, a lot of my challenges now, as someone who is technically proficient and like good at what I do, I'm like keying now. You know, like, I think like a lot of my challenges come from like the many intersections of my identity, right? Like I think I got asked to be on this panel because I sat on a panel at WFMCO, right? And I spoke to a lot of that there. Like any challenge that like any of you will face, like that's always going to be there. I think that there's a lot more layers for me, right? Like as a queer non-binary person of color in Colorado, in an industry that is very male dominated. That's just a reality. I would say that if like you are coming from like a like a different intersection of identity that's unique to you, like you have something to say and you're in this for a reason. It's not going to be easy. I don't think I want to like really put that out there. And I would say that if it's worth it to you, like persist at it, right? Like I think that there's always going to be challenges, and that like the experience of those challenges really depends sometimes on like who you are and your perspective of those. And those are always going to be there. I think that I'm the only key group working at this level in the entire state of Colorado who's not a white man.
I've never
Yeah.
seen anyone, but
I
yeah,
want to
these are
clap. I mean, I
probably-
just want to clap for everything y'all are saying, but I mean, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for doing this work.
Yeah,
Breaking
yeah.
down those
We had a lot of women on.
invisible barriers that just are still there,
We
Yeah.
tried so hard to hire, like we had almost all women on my feature, but that was one department. It was really hard to
Yeah.
find. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of those more technical positions, like people just don't see women in those roles sometimes, and so, but that's awesome. And you gotta
Thanks.
keep doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, and like in response to that, I want to say like find people that are in your corner, right? Like know who's in your corner. There are people that are going to support you, and like give you those chances. And I think like Sam was saying, like I think it's really important to reach out to people, not just for work, right? Like something I've really enjoyed doing this year is reaching out to people that I've already worked with and who know me, right, to some degree, and I have a rapport with, and saying like, look, like I want to get coffee with you. I don't want to have a phone call. I want to get coffee with you, and I want to know who you are as a person. And like for me, right, like my like lens of filmmaking is very values based, which is a reflection of my experience. And it's like as I dig deeper, like the questions for me are like, do you align with me as someone that I want to work with? It's okay if you don't. Like it doesn't mean I won't work with you, but like, do you align with what I want to create in my work environment in terms of like what kind of work I want to put out there, the kind of content that we're creating, like your ethics for like hiring and being in your community. Because Colorado's an especially small insular community. It's very small. And I think that's an advantage. Like people can be very warm. Most people are like down to meet with you. As opposed to like, say like a large market might be more cutthroat and people are like hungry and they really need work. But like, like putting yourself out there, it's like get to know people as people, right? I think that's really important. Because like I think most people that move into film are moving into film because they think that filmmaking is impactful, like creating that is impactful, and like so like when you take a step back from that, what does that mean for your relationships?
I want to echo the coffee thing.
Yeah. I was gonna
Ask
say, yeah.
someone out to coffee. Say, can I pick your brain? Can I ask you a few questions? I would say I've done thousands of coffees over the years, and either you make a friend or sometimes they give you good advice, and sometimes they're like, oh, I'd maybe hire this person, So coffees are great. And then because it's relationships. You want to like build that and see who your people are. And people hire people. When you're on set, you're hanging out with these people for like 12 to 14 hours a day. You want to be around people you enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah, great points. Was there any challenges that you faced, kind of like jumping into AC and maybe then making that pivot to DP, or
Yeah,
when you were
absolutely.
first starting out?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm just kind of echoing what everyone else has already said, but it's hard. It's really hard. You have to really, really like it. I think that's something that, and that's like another reason why I think all of us are here today. It's like on our own time, is because we all remember a time when like this could have been very helpful for us. So I know clearly I don't feel like I know what I'm saying or doing, but I'm here because I do still remember a time where like I knew even less than that,
Yeah.
which was so little.
Well, and I think it's great, just sorry to interrupt, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think like sometimes we're afraid, like we see people doing this
Yeah.
job and we forget that they're just people, that we're just like us trying to figure out how to get to where they got to, right? So, you know, it sounds like you all are kind of sharing that same thing of like, don't be afraid
Yeah.
to like, sometimes networking is a cringe word, right? Because it means certain things, but just get a coffee, send a message, say thank you.
Yep.
Remember to like write a card, you know, those kind of old classic ways of just maintaining that connection. Sounds like what you all are doing.
For sure.
It sounds like you had a hustle going of delivering food as well.
Yeah.
But in those like early years, like how long did it take before you felt like you
Yeah.
could quit that second job? Or, you know, was it a series of months? Did you fall into it? Did it take like a decade? You know, I think sometimes we just watched things polished and we think, why am I not there? But it's like we missed that in between.
For
Like,
sure.
what was that like for you before you quit your job?
Yeah, I think if I had to put like a number to it, and there's no like magic number, but if I had to like kind of remember, I feel like it took me at least a year or two to get like really comfortable with everything. And you know, this is all to say, not everything means like everything, because this has been covered already, but a large part of the job is doing the creative cool stuff, and then the other like large half of it is just like counting beans and figuring out how to do your taxes and figuring out what net 30 is versus net 60 versus like, you know, all these things that you're just not aware of until you do them, until you've been in it for a while and you understand, okay, I just did this job, but that means I'm not getting paid for at least another 30 days, so I have to budget for that. And then at that point, I have to take out 30% because I know when tax season comes along, it's all these things that aren't just doing the setting up the stand, setting up the camera. It's all these other things that take some time to kind of get accommodated to you. And those are the challenges that I think that a lot of people forget about when they're first starting this career in this industry, is that it is a career, it is an industry, and you do have to have some level of sustainability to it. And that means like creating systems for yourself that allow you to you know, schedule your calendar, that allow you to manage your finances, that allow you to turn this thing that, you know, at one point I thought was just like a thing that was for fun into a thing that actually pays your bills every month, which is a really big thing and a really gratifying and cool thing to have happen. But it is difficult, it does take time, and it requires you to kind of like have your systems in place for yourself. And that's one thing, while you're grabbing coffees with people and grabbing coffees with and networking, don't forget to ask those questions. Like the stuff that not only is about you being on set, but the stuff you have to deal with once you leave set. And beyond that, to Cheshire's point, like what is it, what kind of work am I doing? What is fulfilling beyond just the numbers, beyond you know, the sustainability? What is fulfilling? You know, because burnout's a real thing as well when you're first starting out, and you can feel a lot of burnout when you're working a lot of these jobs for you know whatever it takes, right? That's something we've heard a lot, like from our other panelists, that you're doing whatever it takes to get those first 2 years kind of off the ground. And that's a very dangerous place to be as an artist who's wanting to obviously care about what they do, but also make enough money to like keep it going. So it's a really like disastrous recipe for burnout. So you have to figure out your own kind of boundaries for that as well, whether it's figuring out what kind of work you're doing or what you need to be changing. There's a lot of challenges, and they're all very real, and they're all very difficult, but there's nothing that gets you through them faster than doing it. And you know, once again, everything that everyone said so far is having good mentorship, like having people to ask and talk to. Like even to this day, I've just finished working on a project that was 9 days long, and in the middle of the project, I called at least 3 or 4 other friends who are like DPs and very qualified at what they do, and I just like spent literal hours on the phone asking them like, what am I doing? Like, this is crazy. This is like, is it always like this? Or like, what would you have done in this situation? What would you have done in this situation? And having mentors like to kind of, from the start and even to this day, like is incredible to have, you know, people who are, you know, have your corner, people who have your back, people who know that, you know, they have your best interest and you have their best interest. To echo again, it's such a like small community here, and it's such a small basis, and we all love what we do. So, you know, when you're reaching out to people, there's a general understanding that like, we're all in this together kind of thing. We're all trying to make it happen, and it's hard. So whatever like advice, like people are so genuinely willing to like share that because we all know what it's like. So I think just like finding those mentors, finding those people in your corner, and then to your point about going from acing to DPing, and also a general like kind of theme in general, is that you don't have to ask for permission for any of this. Like that's one thing, is that like with all these things, like you feel like you're waiting for someone to tell you that you can do this, or you can pursue this, or you can go out and do this. Obviously, yeah, like do what you need to do to feel confident and comfortable doing those things. But at the end of the day, you don't need permission to do anything. We live in a freelance world where all of us do freelance or work in this industry because we are allowed to pivot, we are allowed to change, we are allowed to do things that we want to do. Whether it's the types of stories we want to tell, whether it's the type of work we want to do, that's like all allowed. You're allowed to do any of that and change. You know, I have close friends who worked in the art department team for years and really wanted to do more directing, or they were working in art and they really wanted to be doing lighting. At any point in time, you can always pivot, which is really fun about freelancing, is that you can always pivot. If something feels like you're burning out of it and you're seeing another like kind of part of the industry that feels more fulfilling or interesting, or even just a different role, like you're always free to explore that, which is really, really cool.
Great motivation, thank you. I guess maybe for this side, we know like making mistakes and failing, that can teach us a lot of great things. But do you have any like suggestions or tips of things that students should avoid when they're coming on set, or doing things to avoid any pitfalls that might just exist? Or have you seen things on set where you're like, oh man, why is that person doing that? Or why did I act that way? Or, are there tips that you could share of traps or mistakes that students might avoid? Or if any of you have any, jump in.
I would say like the biggest thing is like coming in with a good attitude, especially as a PA, like just coming in with a good attitude and wanting to be there. Like not to denigrate, but like sometimes with film schools, I see people come in as PAs and feel like they should already be the director and feel like it's below them to be a PA. And it's like, well, I need to know you before I can like really like trust you with what's happening at a director level. So if you come in with a good attitude and like wanting to help and doing everything like that, you're already above like starting with most other people. And I would say just like, again, really like emphasize the relationships in all of the departments. Like if one department isn't, if production is not busy, like go ask the wardrobe ladies if they need help carrying their stuff in. Like go ask the G&E guys if they need sandbags or something, go ask people what you can do, because that also helps you build your relationships, and it also helps you like develop your knowledge of all of those departments as well.
And nothing is worse than people who are like waiting around to be told what
What to do, yeah.
And like the people that I rehire are the ones that come in and just make themselves available. And it's like they're, maybe you were hired as one thing, but you're not afraid to like go pick up a chair. Like if you see that something needs to be done, do it, because at the end of the day, yes, there's these specific departments, and it gets a little more complicated when you're doing union stuff. But
Yeah,
where you
absolutely.
can't touch things that you're not supposed to touch. But like, that's a very rare situation. A film happens because of everyone coming together, and that's what's so beautiful about it. It's like totally the opposite of our culture. That's like just one person for themselves. It's like it has to happen together. So like, if one department is slacking and needs help, you're helping the whole movie by, or the whole set, by getting involved and helping those people. And people don't forget that either, like they'll really remember those things. And so being part of the solution and always looking around and being like, how can I, at the end of the day, it's always about the project. It's about the film, it's about the commercial, it's about whatever's trying to be made. And how do you make that as easy for everybody around you? And you kind of have to be really present and really alert, like get off your phone and like be in the room and see what people are, it's a very intuitive, being on set is a really intuitive thing in every single department. Like you kind of have to like sense what's going on and what's needed before it's needed, because sometimes it's fast. And we had a day where we were shooting 14 pages of a script in one day. And like the only way that happened was because everyone was so alert and so ready to like be there and help out in any situation. And that is actually kind of thrilling too. Like there's not a lot of moments in life where you like get challenged to be that present. So lean into that, because hardworking people will get hired again.
Yeah.
They will, yeah.
Did you have any examples or tips about pitfalls to avoid?
Yeah, I'd agree with Sam. Like, you know, like if someone has asked to be on set and they show up and like they're only waiting for instructions, you know, like I feel like there's a lot of intuition, right? It's like if I show someone how to like, you know, like coil a stinger or stack the sandbags or the C-stands once, just do it, you know, like do it every single time. Like look for things to keep yourself busy. Ask like, what do you need, you know? I think questions at the appropriate times on sets where there's like actually space to learn are really great. I think a lot of it is like sensing like when is a good time to ask a question and when people are like, you know, like just pressed for time trying to get the next setup built. I think something that I don't love is like if, you know, like I was on a feature and we called for a fifth guy because we had like daytime exteriors, and someone at a rental house recommended his friend who he went to film school with, and the guy showed up without a speed wrench, which is like a basic tool, right? It's like, and then, you know, like something like that, it's like show up with the things of your trade, right? If it's not your absolute first day on set and you're like advertising yourself as a grip, bring your gear. You have to bring your gear.
And with YouTube, there's really no excuse anymore because there's a million people putting that stuff out there. So it might be like, I don't know what to put in my grip kit. We try to teach you, but you could Google this shit. But that's great.
Yeah,
That's a
there's
great
a lot
point.
of knowledge
Yeah.
out there.
I just swore on a tape that's being recorded, but it wouldn't be authentic if there wasn't one.
try hard.
I know. Please do. Let's all let some bombs drop. So we want to take some questions from students, and Isabella, our awesome TA, has a mic. So if those of some of you already submitted questions, I've been incorporating them in, but now's a little bit of time that we want to take some questions from you all. So who wants to start? Lena? Oh, good. And maybe say your name and
Hi, my name is Isaiah Noel. I'm a freshman, I guess. Well, yes, I am. I guess my question to any of you is, so I guess I should start where I help other people on their films who go to different schools, so I'm just doing a lot of things. And I kind of want to learn how to get paid for doing that, but I don't want to be like disrespectful or anything like that and be like, I don't want to feel like I'm just doing things for the money because I'm not, but I'm also very poor. So like, how do you transition from being on set and doing PA and little stuff like that into actually finding a way to get paid for your crafts?
good question.
Very good question.
Yeah.
It's
Still
hard.
learning.
Yeah, and knowing your worth, I think in some ways it's a really personal thing of like, at what point do you feel like you've learned what you needed to learn and your time is now becoming valuable to you, and you know, learning how to set what your day rate is and things like that. I think asking other people in the industry is really great too, of like, how do you get that starting baseline of like, you know, what is my day rate, what is my salary, and then also just like understanding that your time is valuable, you know. Obviously filmmaking is expensive and it's hard, and like even at like the indie level, like I mean, no one on my film made a great rate. Like I wish I could have paid them all double what we did, you know, but we did pay them, you know what I mean? And so there is a point where you do have to kind of do that and feel it out. Like maybe there's a project that like you're like, you know, I'm going to do this anyway, but it's kind of like growing your skin of like feel out what it feels like to be like, you know, I'm actually going to ask for like 200 a day or whatever it is. Because it's intimidating, but sometimes people also will respect that more and they learn to respect your time. And I've found that even if you pay someone something small, they feel like they have a sense of value on set, you know? But it's like a muscle. You kind of have to get used to it a little bit, you know? And it sounds like if you're working on a lot of different projects, like you have experience. So you have to really value your experience and the time that you've spent learning things, you know? I don't. Any other
No,
thoughts?
I think that's really like pretty much the nail on the head is the ability to set your day rate. And then I would also just say that like negotiating is a skill, and it is just something that you kind of like will grow and learn and develop. And like I, as a producer, do really appreciate somebody telling me what their bottom line is. of like what they'll work with or what they won't do. Because it's helpful. It's helpful on my side of things as well when I'm looking through the budgets and I'm trying to figure out what it is that I can offer, kind of thing. So, but it is a skill that it's just, it's one that just takes practice.
People will let you work for free forever if you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, yeah. Eventually, you gotta tell people.
Yeah, yeah.
And if it's a student production, that might be challenging because maybe they're not able to give you any money versus if you're working for someone that has a little bit of money to throw around too. It kind of makes me think about rates because that is something that we're struggling with. In my producing class, like we were doing mock budgeting. What are like kind of beginner rates for those of you that hire crew or when you all were starting out in yours? What would be like a PA rate in Colorado for like a emerging filmmaker, semi-professional?
Like you probably have. I'm like
Do you know?
out of that a little bit now. So
I would say that since I'm mostly in the commercial space at this point and doing commercials, we pay, it's roughly about $300 to $350 a day, and that's usually on a 12-hour day. Production just normally is 12 hours. So yeah,
Okay,
that's probably.
that's like the PA rate?
Yeah,
for
that would be
Okay.
roughly the PA rate.
And then if someone was going to do like an AC or,
You probably start like as a camera PA and then work
Yeah.
your way up to
Camera
like a second
PA.
AC and then eventually to first. But probably similar for a camera PA, like 350.
350, and then I think second ACs are, because first ACs are 800.
Yeah,
so
second should be 750.
750
Yeah, 750.
for 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
great, thanks for sharing that because it's so opaque and we can't really find those prices. I'm going off of rates from the early 2000s and I'm like, I don't know, are people still making $100?
gone up as much as maybe they should.
Yeah.
Should.
Yeah.
That's
to
very
be
true.
honest. And
Yeah.
like sometimes like it's worth, this is not gonna be a popular opinion, but to like get another job for a while you are getting those like you said, you don't just
Absolutely.
get hired as an AC. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that is something that you're gonna have to work towards. So if you can get something to get supplemental income so you can just start getting on set and building, it does take time because you do need experience. And so, yeah, if you can just get all the PA jobs in the world, that's great. But like sometimes to take the pressure off of it, and so that there's still a little joy in the work. Again, I can't even tell you how many jobs that I've had that just kind of, and you learn from all of it. You're out in the world doing stuff, but so that you can take the time to build the skills to like keep leveling up, because you're not just going to walk in and get hired for, when someone has been there who's been doing it for 15 years or,
Yeah.
or whatever. So you have to be patient.
going,
I
yeah.
know that's not.
Chuck, 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 like the
Yeah, you
train,
gotta just
slow
kind
move.
of, yeah.
Okay. How about another question from the audience? Yeah. Isabella, do you mind bringing that up? Did you want to add to that too, Chuck?
Yeah, I've been
Thanks.
kind of brewing on this question over here. I feel like I see a lot of passionate hobbyist filmmakers in Colorado, and interestingly enough, like that sometimes intersects with the commercial space, sometimes it doesn't. Colorado is mostly commercial because our incentive isn't as strong as other states, as I'm sure you know. I think you have to know where to look to get paid work. Like if you want a commercial rate, you have to be working for a commercial production company, right? And like that work it can look really different. It's really different from narrative. It's really different for doc. I think like it's good to come up with your own metrics and what you're willing to compromise on and what you're looking for when you're looking for whether or not you take a job, right? Like, is it for your reel? Is it really interesting? Are you going to meet someone that's like, you really want to know and get like actual on-set experience with them, even if it's not in your desired role? Like, is it a project that's like really special? Are you going to learn something new? Is there a build that you've never seen before? Like all of those are questions to ask yourself. I think those decisions are going to be different for everybody. And they all move the needle towards like what you want to be doing, right? Like that's the ultimate end question. I also want to point out that when we talk about rates, this is a part of running a business. There's resources online for this as well, but a 12-hour rate is very different from a 10-hour rate. PAs do primarily work 12s. They're the first in and first out. They are the absolute glue of a set. Like a good PA is indispensable. And yeah, so it's like learn how to calculate that rate right? Like, so like a 10-hour rate is an 8-hour at straight time plus 2 hours of time and a half, right? We're getting into math. We're getting into math, right? So like a 12-hour rate is 8 hours of straight time and 4 hours of time and a half. What happens if you go over 12? That's double time, right? So like these are questions I started asking as a PA because I got into film as someone in my 30s who needed to actually make a living and didn't have a lot of resources. So like I started asking questions like, hey, this is a travel job. Are you gonna cover my lodging? Do I get a per diem? And what is the mileage? Is it the IRS tax rate? Because I'm driving my personal vehicle full of camera gear to your location, right? Those are all really important questions to ask, and they are standard, I wanna say. Like, if they are the reason that someone doesn't wanna like pick you, despite who you are and like how good you are for a job, like that's kind of a red flag.
100%. I would like
Yeah.
on that. That is 100% because those are very standard. Every position asks those questions
Yeah.
to a producer. So if somebody's telling you that like you shouldn't be asking, don't take that job.
Yeah, totally.
But they're
And
not
and
gonna
like
offer it up. Like you have to know to ask the questions.
yeah, totally. But even as a PA, like those are
Yeah.
totally valid questions. Like you should be getting lodging, you should be getting per diem on a travel job. Like you should be getting some kind of rate for a travel day. You should be getting mileage on your vehicle. You can look at the federal tax rate. It changes every year. It goes up. And then I think like a really important part of it is like learning to negotiate and like those soft skills of framing it. Like, hey, like, you know, like so-and-so recommended me, I'm really good. Like I show up really hard for this work. I would love to see this number. Like, can you meet me in the middle? Like, it's like, can we make this work? You know, I tend to flex more for people that I have rapport with. I'm like, okay, look, like I know if you're saying you don't have the budget, you don't, right? I've worked with you, I trust you. Like, we have a relationship, and I'll tend to flex more for people that I know and trust. And it's like kind of developing like that dialogue with yourself of like what you're willing to take and not take, and like what those lines are, right?
And for the record, that doesn't ever end whether you are a PA or you are trying to negotiate your rate on your own feature or like a huge like movie. You are unless you're in a situation where one day you have like a manager or agent that's doing that for you, but that's like a whole other level. Like you are always going to be negotiating for yourself what your worth is on any set in any role. So you kind of just have to get used to it now, you know, because around every corner people are going to be, I mean, every movie budget, even the highest grossing ones, are all trying to cut corners, and they're always going to be trying to cut your corner, and the only person that knows your worth is you. So it's like doing that with grace and with self-confidence. I mean, I'm still learning it every day, you know, because there is no one that's like doing that stuff for you, you know.
Oh, 100%. I just to piggyback on that, I would also say like don't take it personal if like the negotiation, if like if I come back and I hardline and I say I can't make this work, like don't take that personal. Don't take it any other way than like it's just numbers. Sometimes, you know.
Yeah. Thanks for
And then you
sharing. That was
decide if
super
it's like,
valuable.
If it's worth it,
Is
if
it
all
worth
the
it for
other
you? Yeah.
aspects of taking a job is worth it to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm like, okay, look, like I understand that you're telling me you don't have the budget. I'll do this for you this time.
Yeah.
And let's talk next time about rates. Like this is what
100%.
I'm really looking for. And I'll show you that I'm good. Like
Yeah.
I'll step on set and like show you like my work.
So
I
close
might-
you guys are getting paid.
Yeah. I might put in my invoice, like the discount, so they could see, like, if I'm
Yeah.
doing this again, this is what it would cost,
Yeah.
right?
For the record, on all of our budgets, we put what the rate would be
Yeah.
and then what we're taking. Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, 90% of the time, we're taking a lower rate than what we want to be, just to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's really valuable, especially when you're like pitching to, like, you know, a commercial or something like that. Or any job that we do, for them to see what the actual rate is and then see where it's coming in. And they're like, oh, okay, like I'm valuing this a little bit more.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right, let's get a couple more questions. Yes.
Hi, my name is Brennan. I'm a little bit of an imposter here. I graduated from the CU Denver Film Program a couple of years ago, and I've been working as a production coordinator locally, mostly in reality. I'd love to do more scripted stuff. But I had a quick question, since a lot of you seemed ingrained in the indie scene, specifically Colorado, how you all feel about Sundance Institute moving a lot of their facilities to Colorado in the coming year, as well as if you feel that the hype is overstated, if you think that the educational side of Sundance Coming is going to help, or what you guys have been doing to prepare yourself for the move or involve yourself in it, if at all.
Do you mean how is it going to help the production side of stuff in Colorado? I mean, I have a lot of opinions about this, and I've been really involved in them coming here and encouraging, and I think it's a beautiful thing for Colorado. I think it's going to highlight the creatives here. I think they've been really trying hard to get involved in the community. But I don't know that it's necessarily going to have the effect on production that everyone thinks that it's going to. Our film incentive money is the thing that really needs to, and we have a lot of change happening in that office, and that's really amazing. But I don't know that Sundance being in Utah necessarily affected how many films were shot in Utah. Could it help invigorate things and get people to see, like, Colorado is a beautiful place to shoot films. There's so many different landscapes. You have the city, you have the mountains, you have all of that stuff. But I think it's going to help put a spotlight on us for sure, but I don't know that it's going to necessarily immediately affect production and narrative. The tax incentives are the things that make people want to shoot here. It's why New Mexico is thriving, on the level that it is. And so there are a lot of ways you can get involved in that. There's constantly, there's voting going on, calling people in your local government, like letting people know I work here and I want to be able to sustain myself and have a living, and I want more projects to be shot here. And so getting involved in those ways, I think, is going to be more powerful than just
More
the
informative.
festival being here. Yeah.
Agree. Okay, anyone else? Yeah, Lena, and then we'll go to Lizzie. We've got about 5 more minutes for this part, and then we'll have time for you to just interact individually for about 15 minutes with students. Right?
Okay. Hello, my name is Lena. I'm a film student here in MSU. My question is, as someone who is very, very shy of contacting or reaching out, what is a good standard advice, or what have you guys have learned based on what you have experienced would be the advice to give someone who is a very introvert, shy person who doesn't really know how to put themselves out yet, but really wants to. So
Good question. Asking a question is the first step. Look at that, Lena. Congrats. Yeah, what advice would you give? And maybe some of you were shy back in your early days. So,
yeah.
how did you overcome that? What advice would you give? Because I think that happens a lot.
It's a muscle,
Yeah.
It's like I had crippling anxiety and shyness when I was in my 20s and early 30s, which is hard even to imagine now because I just had to get my way out of it. But always just pushing yourself to that edge. And the other thing is just remembering that we're all just human beings. Even if someone isn't coming across to you as shy or introverted, we all have insecurities. We're all just trying to do our best. And so just remembering that every person you're meeting is just another human being. We're all in this together. We're doing the best we can. And so, and I would just really challenge you to, push yourself to that edge, whatever that feels safe and comfortable in talking to people. Because you do get more comfortable with it. The nerves and the fears don't necessarily always go away, but you're always leveling up, you know what I mean? So it's first those little conversations, and the coffees is a great one, doing one-on-one, I think can be really helpful to just start getting comfortable and start using your voice. And you just kind of keep pushing, and it can evolve. I don't know what your experience was, but.
No, I the same way. I was very introverted and very shy, and I still get really shy talking to people for the first time, and even trying to negotiate, with right now I'm negotiating with a still photographer on his rates, and I'm still very nervous because I've never talked to him. And it is, as to your point, it's a muscle and it's a skill, and it's just one that you kind of always have to keep building on and trying and pushing yourself a little bit further outside of your box as to what you feel comfortable doing. Maybe it's not right away a coffee, but it's an email connection and just kind of emailing somebody once a month or whatever, and then just kind of building from there.
Yeah, I'd say that this goes back to kind of the first thing we were talking about, which is that I think you guys are all here because you guys all really have a lot of interest in doing this, and that comes from a very passionate place. And before having it like that for me, like I felt very unconfident and very shy, but in the same kind of vein of it being a muscle, inherently doing this job and doing it because you really like doing it will give you confidence. At least it's given me a lot of confidence. Like, before doing this job, I don't think I had that, because it's you're doing something that you're now not only care about, but you're also like kind of have a knack for, I'm assuming, because that's why you're here. It's why you want to be doing it. And doing things like that will inherently just kind of build your confidence up, which is really nice. And that just takes time. But doing something you love to begin with should give you a fair base level of confidence, knowing that you're doing something that most people are too afraid to do, which is doing something that's not traditional, doing something that's difficult, doing something that is just like not, not traditional. It's very it takes a lot of bravery to do that. So the fact that you're doing it in the first place, hopefully that gives you that first level of confidence that will only get better and better and better.
And there are introverted artists. Like, my friend was on Celine Song's last new movie, and she's like a really quiet, mellow director and doesn't shout and is kind of shy and is making incredible feature films, So there's room for all types. I think we see a lot of this like hyper masculine, like loud, like, aggressive, and that's one way to make a movie, but it isn't the only way to make a movie. And, like the first AD I had on my set was like calm and centered and quiet, and like that allowed me to direct the movie in the way that I wanted. So that skill can actually be really valuable to some people, especially as we see these typical structures changing on film sets and like people wanting to do things a little bit differently. So, also lean into that part of you that maybe that's a great thing, and maybe there's a director who really wants to work with someone like that, or maybe you want a director, we don't all have to be the same.
Yeah, I feel like I would say there's always gonna be discomfort. Like, it just doesn't stop, right? And in some sense, like, for me, it's kind of the goal. Like, if I'm not uncomfortable, like, I'm not, like, figuring something out or learning something new. And I think that recognition is, for me, really helpful, right? Like, just do it scared.
Totally.
Just do it anyway.
Do it, yeah.
Like trust that you belong, right? Like, if you decide you belong, then you belong there. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I'm not gonna say it's not an uphill battle, depending on your role, especially. But if you decide that that's something that you want to do, just do it. And make yourself like the epicenter and the anchor of your own experience. Right? I think that becomes really visible to other people, no matter how you present, right? It's that you have something to offer that's really unique.
We've got one more question because I want to leave the time for you guys to have engagement with them. So, Lizzie, do you want to share the last question here?
Thank you. I'm Lizzie, and I have a million questions for all of you, but I wanted to know when you knew, if there was a specific moment when you knew that this was your passion or that this was what you wanted to do for your career.
I do have it. It's like going to date me a little bit, though. This was back when the Esquire was open. I grew up here, and I saw 2 movies in 1 week. And one was Lost in Translation by Sofia Coppola. And it like blew my mind. Like, I remember driving out and I was like, oh my God, this is like the way they shot the film and everything. And I was feeling these things. And then a couple days later, I saw Darjeeling Limited in the same theater. And there's this like tracking shot in that movie where the kid just passed away, and like the flowers and the music. And I realized all the things that I loved, music, color, feeling, that everyone in the theater was feeling something they didn't even realize. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life, And rest in peace, Esquire movie theater.
I know. Jeez.
Yeah.
Anyone else have that kind of moment?
I was that was probably my first job out of school. I was my sophomore year at CU, and a professor put me in touch with this local director who was doing this music video in Utah, in this ghost town called Cisco, and a ghost town, like, it was called Cisco, so it's just like this completely abandoned town that was just in the middle of nowhere, that was like super creepy, super windy, like 60-mile-per-hour winds. It was my first job ever. I was still in school. I carpooled with a friend. We went out to Utah, and everyone was camping in tents, and we're shooting this like ridiculous music video, and the wind is going like so hard, the sun is so hot, everyone is smelling so bad, and everything is going off the rails, and it's just like this crazy time. And I just remember looking around and seeing like the whole crew, and everyone was smiling, like laughing, making jokes, and I was like, "This is what you guys do? Like, this is your job? Like, that's so fucking cool."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, if this is like what it is," and it wasn't that for the rest of the career, but that spirit of like this camaraderie of this like team coming together, and the passion that I saw was just like infectious. It was just like super cool to see, and I knew that day like I wanted to be like in that world. Yeah.
Do either of you have that like kind of magic moment?
Yeah, I would say very similar. My first job out of college, I was an unpaid intern and then turned PA on a feature here in Denver, and it was like a crew of 10 people, and it was long, like 3 months, and it took forever. I was all over Colorado kind of thing, but it was, again, that relationship, that camaraderie, those like inside jokes, and like and also being able to do a little bit of everything because we were so small. So like I was the art, painting walls, and I was helping with steaming wardrobe and such. And so just being a part of like that community really was like, that's what I want to do. Like, I just want to be a part of this.
You go home and you're like, "Man, I miss my like summer camp."
Yeah,
friends."
like I miss my friends. I'm like,
like
and then
summer camp,
like
yeah.
you cry at the wrap party. You're like, oh my God, when am I going to see you
family.
again? Yeah.
I don't think I have like a singular moment. Like I feel like my relationship with this industry as a whole goes through some ebbs and flows. But I can recall like moments where I was like, this is where I want to be, right? Like I worked on this dock in the Wind Rivers of Wyoming with my friend Alex. It was a long form documentary, and so like this project stretched out over like two and a half years, and so like who I was at the beginning of that project was entirely different, like skill wise and all kinds of aspects. Who I was at the end of that that documentary, and like I remember like being on the reservation. We'd go up and shoot for like 2 weeks at a time, and like we would just be like completely immersed in these people's lives. Like we were following like Indigenous youth. Ages like 18 to 22, and I was listening to them talk about their lives and what they've been through, and like this choice that they were all like, up against, which was like, are we going to stay on the reservation and like preserve our culture, or are we going to leave the reservation in search of like greater opportunities? And it was like kind of this pivot point for all of these kids, and like, like I think I had this realization that like working in film is one of these things that like exposes you to like all these different stories and experiences that like you wouldn't otherwise have access to. It's really special as a vehicle in that way. And I think it's also really special how you as a person get to shape what that vehicle looks like, because there's so many different ways to do film. And yeah, I think that like I'm always just really grateful for like those really special experiences, whether it's like getting a window into like somebody else's life in a way that I never would have had access to. Just like I think there's a lot of like pleasure in just like showing up on set for like a 15-hour day, and you're like, yeah, we pulled it off and it looked great. Yeah, we did the thing. I think there's always something to take away that like kind of like fuels that journey.
Well, thank you all for sharing. I do want to leave at least a little time for those that don't feel comfortable asking questions to be able to approach. Thank you for your generosity and sharing your stories, and the future's bright. We've got some good ones in there. I'm going to put on that screen a QR code with some resources that Lorian put together through the film office of like ways to get involved with festivals, volunteer opportunities, some local resources. So thank you all for coming, and just informal networking.